It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon and New Year's Eve, December 31st. And how you doing today? This is an exciting day. Welcome to Easy Language and Ryu Sensei no Jupu no Nihongo. And today is New Year's Eve in Japan, and that's the equivalent to Christmas Eve or Christmas in America. It's a very important day all over Asia, but Japan's the only country, I think, or one of the few countries that celebrates it on December 31st, New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day is January 1st. Most of the other Asian countries celebrate it. It's also important, but they use the lunar calendar. It can be anywhere between the middle of January to the beginning of March. Today we call New Year's Eve is called Omisoka. Omisoka literally means the last day of the year or New Year's Eve. And the last few days of the year, traditionally Japanese people will clean their house. They say osoji. Soji is cleaning. Osoji is big cleaning or whatever. Anyway, so the people clean up their whole house and actually repair some stuff and want to enter the new year with a nice, clean, bright home and get all the dirty things and really the bad spirits from the last year out of the house and start the new year with something, well, just, new ambitions. All the stuff that happened this year, just throw that away and let's go for the next new year. And so they spend the last few days of the year cleaning the house and preparing traditional Japanese foods, which is called osechi. Okay, and I'll show you a picture of that later. And the purpose there is the first day of the year, the first few days of the year, there's no cooking or cleaning, just relaxing, visiting friends, going to the temple or shrine for the first year's prayers, enjoying yourself, having a good time. And so they clean up the whole house and prepare this traditional Japanese food that lasts 2 or 3 days in cold weather. And but nowadays nobody does that, or they go buy it or order it and they eat it. We'll eat it New Year's morning, maybe, and in the afternoon maybe snack on a little bit more, but we don't make a lot or buy a lot. People just go out to restaurants all the time now, so that's what happens. But my wife actually the other day went to visit her mother and have lunch with her and ended up going to her mother's house, and her mother asked her to do a bunch of stuff. And one was this is something people do at the end of the year, is change the paper on the sliding Japanese doors, which is called shoji. And shoji is traditionally got paper on it, and of course throughout that people don't change it every year, but uh, uh, when it gets damaged and holes in it, especially if you have little kids, they write on it or punch holes in it and it starts to look dirty. So that's one thing they do. And it's called shoji harikai. Haru means to place on, kai means to change. So replace the paper, shoji harikai. And she had a hard time with that. You take all the paper off, then you have to scrub the wood frame. You can see there, and get all the gunk and the glue off it, then put fresh glue on it, and then put on the paper without having it being crooked or wrinkled. It's quite a technique, and so she was busy doing that, and so now her mother has nice, clean new shoji for the New Year's, and then traditionally the night before tonight we'll do it as well. They have a thing called toshikoshi soba, which is uh, bringing in the new year with soba noodles. And I guess one thing is the noodles are long and it expresses longevity. And toshikoshi, toshi is year, kosu means to cross over. So it's crossing into the new year. And traditionally, I guess they did that because it was non-messy. It was the last meal of the year. And you just boil the noodles and put it in some soup. So there's only a couple of pots to clean. And it's not a big, doesn't make a big mess. So it's easy to clean up before the new year. But traditionally, people will now maybe around 11:30, or we'll do it. So we cross into the new year. We'll start eating it about 2 or 3 minutes before the countdown. So then we're eating it from this year into the next year. And this is a picture of toshikoshi soba. And toshikoshi soba, in this case, soba is buckwheat noodles, and then they put the little kamaboko, the fish cake, and the fried tempura shrimp on there. However, my wife is allergic to buckwheat noodles. I don't particularly care for them, so we use udon, which is the thicker flour noodles, but it's the same concept. So we have toshikoshi udon. Okay, so then what happens next? The next day, um, traditionally people will go to really you go to a shrine, and a shrine is called jinja, and you go to jinja for hatsumode, which is the first year's prayers, and people will often pray for the new year to be successful, to pass the grades, and to here I'm trying to find this uh to have a good year, make money, or get into the school, or do whatever. And this isn't a good example of non-social distance. Of course, this is a picture taken quite a while ago. This is probably a very famous temple, I don't know where. And people will go to a temple or a shrine, but really it's supposed to be a shrine. And then they throw money in that box, and it's called the bako, I think. Saizen bako. And anyway, they throw money in, they'll ring a bell, they'll clap twice, and they'll pray for health or a good year or make money or get over whatever happened last year. And then they have ome kuji. Ome kuji is you go shake this uh, tubular box, and out comes a stick, and then that stick has a number. Then from that number, the people behind the counter pull out the little shelf that has the number on it, and they pull out the paper, and it's called it's your kind of um, horoscope. What's going to happen this year? And the best one is daikichi, and then there's kichi, and then there's the middle one, and kind of bad one and very bad one. And people, if they get a really bad one, they'll wrap it up on this fence they have. They'll tie it to that and try to make it go away. Now, talked earlier about the traditional Japanese cooking. Traditional Japanese food is called osechi for New Year's food. And again, we don't make it much. One of the main characters of this meal is this called taiyaki. It's sea bream, and it's called tai. And then because they grill it or broil it, it's called taiyaki. And often it's salted very heavily, and then they cook it. You can buy it just like this at the supermarket. Most people don't do it at home. I've done it once. A friend that went fishing and got a bunch of these, and he gave me a few. So at New Year's I made it, but it's a lot of trouble. Yeah. So anyway, taiyaki. The problem is there's another food. It's kind of a sweet pastry called taiyaki, where it's cream filling inside of this fish shaped pastry that's cooked kind of like a waffle. And so they put in the batter, then they put in a little cream, then batter on top, and then they compress it together and bring it out. And it looks like a fish, and it has white cream or red bean cream. And that's also called taiyaki, so you don't want to make a mistake there. All right, so the next thing is the osechi itself. And here we go. So this is a good example of traditional foods. And nowadays, I think it was basically mostly fish and vegetables. You can see here in this upper one, this looks like a little roast duck. And then these, I think, are sea snails. And this is octopus. But nowadays you'll find it's got like fried chicken or roast beef, and it's become very Western. Japanese people, especially younger people, don't eat this kind of food very much. Some of the foods here can be eaten all year round, and some of them are traditionally only eaten around the New Year's time. So basically, New Year's Eve, people have the house all clean. A lot of people go back to their hometown or their parents' house with their kids and stay the night. There's lots of special TV programs in the countdown. Also, a lot of people will go to a shrine or a temple, and at the very end of the year, when it hits 12 o'clock, they'll ring the temple bell. I forget how many times, a bunch of times, and people will pray during all that time into the next year. But that's 12 o'clock at night. And right now it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon and it's snowing. Yes, which doesn't really happen here very much. So I don't think I'm going to any shrine tonight at 12 o'clock at night, but I'll watch it on TV. So that was Ryu Sensei's Juppu no Nihongo and Japanese New Year's. I hope you enjoyed it and got some information from that, and I'll see you next time. Thank